Hello, everyone. Today, I just wanted to talk a bit about a method I've been using to do my learning recently. So I've been doing a whole lot of pre-learning, so a whole bunch of courses in preparation for my biomedical sciences degree. And it's been interesting because it's been a while since I've been in any kind of formal education. So one of the reasons I really wanted to do pre-learning was to effectively kick my mind into gear and see whether I could integrate learning with my regular work. And it turns out I can, but what I've also discovered is that I can onboard quite a lot of information really quickly, and even just with some simple tools, I've managed to really make the most out of it. Now, I've always had a resistance to you've got to use this tool is going to change your life, all that kind of thing. I don't like using productivity tools for the sake of it, for the dream of there being this perfect productivity tool. The way I've been going about this is I try to learn things the old-fashioned way, just reading the content, maybe making some notes on paper, and every time I thought about something I really wish I had a flashcard system where I can show myself a drug name and then see what it does on the back. People would do in an old-fashioned way, they'd literally write out things on flashcards to test their memory. Then I discovered that there was a tool called Anki, which is really popular with both medical students and language learners, etc., which does exactly that, but in a digital way. I was like, okay, that's cool. Then in other ways, I thought, well, I really like making notes on paper and on my iPad, but I wish there was a way to sync it with my computer, which is not part of the Apple ecosystem. So I went looking through, kind of different solutions for that until I realized that there is one tool that covers all bases there, which is Microsoft OneNote. And it also has live interaction. So for example, I could scribble on my iPad and then all of a sudden it'll appear live synced on the screen. So it's effortless. I'm going to explain how I kind of blend these things together and why they're useful. I also noticed that this flashcard tool I was using, Anki, can sync to any device for free. You can make a free account, you can sync the information, and then when you're logged in on the browser, on your phone or your iPad or whatever, you can get access to it. So I've ended up coming up with this system where I will be away from the computer. Maybe I'll be sitting outside in the sun or whatever. I will be reading my course information, maybe on one side of the iPad, like this. And as I'm doing it, I'll just make random notes, whatever. Sometimes I feel like making notes about everything, or just copying down everything I'm reading, because sometimes there's something methodical and meditative about that. At other times, if I actually zoom out, we'll see this. So on the very far left side of the screen, don't know if you can see my cursor, but everything above the new arrow there, these are just general notes, and I might erase them as I'm done with them. And then everything to the right side of this column in the middle is basically everything that I want to put into my flashcard database. So basically, as I'm learning important information, not only am I having fun just writing it down and just kind of messing around doing doodles and stuff on one side of the screen, I then kind of condense it into basic questions for myself. So if I'm learning, like I have been now, about horizontal gene transfer in bacterium in regards to antibiotic resistance and the different methods of doing that, like conjugation, transformation, transduction, etc., we can see that what I've done is I take some of that knowledge and I turn them into questions. And they can be very basic ones. In fact, they're not supposed to be hard exam questions. They're just things to jog my memory. So for example, is bacteriophage DNA expression imperfect? Yes. Really easy. Not even supposed to be challenging. It's just a reminder. So what I'll do is, like I said, I could be out in the garden or something, just writing all these things down on here. But now when I get back to the computer, I can go, okay, well, now I want to add this question into my database of flashcards. This is a text-based question, so I'll go into my antibiotic resistance text database. And I've got an add-on on Anki here as well, so you can see your performance a bit like a GitHub graph. And I'll click on add. I've already got the window open here to add a card, and I'll just type it in. So is bacteriophage DNA excision imperfect? Yes. And then I'll click add, and it adds it to the database. Now, if you don't know what Anki is, basically, if you press study now, it's going to show you those flashcards. And based on how easy it is for you, it's going to be ranking that information. So it's effectively learning what you know and what you don't know. So the question here is, what is the name of the cytoplasm region containing the single circular genomic DNA molecule? So it's going to be like a nucleoid or a nucleo something. Nucleoid, there we go. So it'll ask you, okay, well, was that easy? Did you find it good? Was it hard for you, or do you want to see it again? I'll say that was good because I said nucleoid, but I wasn't like 100%. So I'll write good. The next question will be, give an example of 2 or more modern cephalosporins that subvert penicillin binding protein 2A in methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. I don't know the names for these ones. I know they begin with like Sifter, something like that. So that's the point of this. This is a recent question. So the idea is that it'll basically just like keep throwing it at you, depending on how hard you're finding it. I'll say something like ceftamycin and something else. Nope, the answer is ceftaroline and ceftobiprole. So I can say, okay, well, I didn't know those. So I press again. So it shows me again. Then it moves on to the next one. What antibiotic class is ciprofloxacin? That's a fluoroquinolone. There we go. I found that easy, so I press easy. And you can see it gives the indications of how long it'll be before you see it again. Maybe we'll flag this one to show you again in 1 month. So the thing about that is you don't have to do it from the computer. So if I'm out and about, I can literally just open the Anki tab on my phone. And from here, I have access to those decks. You can't really see it on the screen, but it's exactly the same as if I was clicking on decks here. And again, this is free. Anki Web. There is a paid app version if you want to like support the developers, but the Anki system itself is open source. So if I click on antibiotic resistance text, you won't be able to see this, but it comes up with the next question that I can just do it from the phone. So the thing about this is these are free tools, basically, assuming OneNote's free. I don't really know how Microsoft is doing it nowadays, but it's effortless. So I'll take my iPad, I'll go anywhere I want, read, and if I feel like it, I don't have to, but if I feel like it, I'll just make notes and I'll write down some potential questions for myself. Then when I'm back in the digital workspace, again, if I feel like it, I can just go back through and add these questions, and then I can just live like erase them. So as I erase it on my iPad, you see the question erases there on the screen. So this is a way of just kind of like keeping the learning process just like synchronized and there all the time. And the reason why this is good for me as well is because I'm always jumping between things. So I'll be like working 1 minute, then playing a video game the next minute, then learning something the next minute. I don't really consign things to like hourly slots as such. Depends on what it actually is. So like if I feel like it, I'll just add another thing. So can bacteriophages transfer imperfectly excised DNA to future bacterium targets? Very simple one. The answer is yes. Add and erase. So let's talk about images versus text. So another thing I figured out quite quickly from going back through this learning process is that my memory is largely, or rather dominantly, visual based, which is a benefit and a con depending on how you think about it. So if I've seen a table of like relevant to this antibiotic classes, so I can see in like one column there's beta-lactams penicillins, beta-lactam cephalosporin, beta-lactam carbapenem, glycopeptides, vancomycin, aminoglycosides, streptomycin, etc. I see where they are visually on the table in my memory, but that doesn't mean I actually know the links well enough to recall them without seeing the table. Now that visual memory of the table may decay over time if it's not reinforced, and I will have trouble recalling like the antibiotic classes because I didn't actually know the links. I didn't actually know the knowledge enough to still recall it once I've lost the memory of the table, if that makes sense. So what I'm doing to subvert that is for everything I'm learning now, I didn't do this for the COVID immunology one, but for everything I'm learning now, I've got a text and an image database. So if we look at the image one, I've thrown in some text-based image occlusions here just for fun, but it's really more for diagrams, right? So let me just get through this. The beta-lactam for the function of the peptidoglycan crosslinks. Okay, so here's an example of a diagram of ribosome sizes measured in Svedberg units. So we've got an image occlusion box over one of the scales here. I know this is about 40, so it should be 40S under there. The thing is, with a visual spatial memory, I might just look at this image and immediately know what's there without actually understanding why that's the answer. It's a problem of having like a really dominant visual recall, is you can know what's there without knowing why, and that's part of the reason why I separate it into image databases and text-based databases. So the thing is, this may look convoluted, but for me it's really not, because it's all optional. So again, really, the fundamental activity is just sit down with a tablet and learn something. It's only really if I care about information that I think, well, future me should probably have this rattling around his brain a bit more, that I'll make a note to add it to the Anki system. And that's also really for future benefit, because maybe I'm out somewhere with family, like I've been doing recently. I was waiting in a hospital outpatient's waiting area while a family member had an appointment. So I was just sitting there just going, yes, I know that. No, I don't know that, etc., etc. Maybe when you're like in the bathroom or something on the loo, just have a little go at it. Sitting around with people or like traveling, if you're on a train, then you're doing it. So you're effectively building up your own reinforcement system for your learning while you're learning. There are other tools people use as well, but like this alone for me is just, it's already brilliant. It's already helped me to remember like the names of things like antibiotics, which are convoluted because it feels like the rules for the spelling of different terms are just like inconsistent. So I just thought I'd show you this in case you find it interesting or you want to give something similar a try. I'm glad I'm figuring these things out now and I'm actually putting them to the test before the degree actually starts, just so that I know I've got everything like mentally in order and it'll be like a tried and tested system by the time I get into it. So if you made it to the end, put some kind of notepad emoji in the comments so I can see if you made it this far. Stay safe, everyone, and I'll see you next time.